Alright, hey guys, if you're like me, you like collecting the Mega Man stuff, like the battle chips, chances are you probably have quite a few duplicates. I can't tell you how many recovery 10s I have, because I don't know myself. So today we're going to be making our own custom battle chips, not just with the art, but actually with the data itself. We're going to be emulating the actual rare battle chips. I've never even seen a base chip in my life, and as you can see, this is probably one of my older attempts. This is not the best way to do it, but even if you just think that this isn't an actual thing, and maybe I do actually have a base chip, well, look at this. This is a Japanese spreader battle chip. Put a little bit of aluminum foil on there. This is a lot neater than trying to use a soldering gun. And look what happens when I slide it into the back of the... See, look? No, just a standard chip. Slide it in the back. What happens? Red sun? That can't be right. Well, that's because actually these chips aren't actually really complicated. You can easily hack these to be pretty much any battle chip you want. And before we get into the actual tutorial part, let me give credit where credit is due. The first person, I believe, who gave me information on this was Phazeta, Phazeta on Reddit. And the other person who gave me the idea of making this was, I believe it's Mega Master X. He has a YouTube channel too, lots of good information. I highly suggest checking it out. Sorry, I'm too close to the camera. Alright, so I didn't actually steal any of their ideas. I just made my own version of it. As you can see, there are multiple ways of doing it. If you're going to do this is a more of a temporary route. This can come undone easily. I taped it in there and it's held pretty well for a couple weeks, but I mean, it looks a little bit worse if they have a tape there. And yeah, but this is the more ideal route. Would be a more permanent route. Would be use a solder. If you're going to do that, don't use a soldering gun. Use a soldering iron. They are way better, and they will not look as messy, and basically it's more permanent because this isn't coming off at all. You can do whatever you want. This is staying there. Alright, so let's get right into this. So as you can see right here, this is a Giga chip. This is base, and let's go ahead and show you how it works in game. You slide it in, and there he goes and does his thing. Alright, and you say, and what was this chip originally? This chip was actually a spreader battle chip. As you can see from looking at the ID number, 018 is spreader. So this spreader got a little bit of an upgrade, I'd say. Alright, so let's just go ahead and jump right in. We've already spent 2 minutes of your time just talking about this. Let's go see how it's done. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is check which battle chip you are going to use for the actual process. Today we're using a recovery 10, since these things are kind of pretty much useless. 10 HP for was wasting a turn, not great. So what are we going to turn this into? We're going to turn this into a Super Vulcan, because Super Vulcan is actually way more effective than this. So what are you going to need? The first thing you're going to need is some type of contact. If you want to go to soldering route, that's fine. Use soldering iron only. If you want to use aluminum foil, which is a lot less conspicuous and a lot easier for people who want materials, this is a little bit harder to do, but it still works. And then if you want to do a custom battle chip job, like my base chip, which is now gone, which is actually a gift for a friend, you can probably guess who it is if you watch my videos enough, you can actually print out these yourself. I don't have all the chipped stuff, but I do have a video up that should be up by now about how to print your own battle chip covers. It's held on by packing tape. I'll show you how to actually do the applying of it later, but as you can see, here we go. We have Super Vulcan. Believe it or not, this is actually scaled from an in-game image from a website, and I photoshopped it in with the chip, and there's the back. I have a template if you want to make your own chips from just an image. You can use my template, which will be linked below. If you want to see how to make the image from the template, watch the other video that should be annotated with the little eye up there or whatever. Alright, so let's jump right in. First things first, you need to have the information about what the battleship Super Vulcan contains. So how do we know what Super Vulcan has? Well, one of the links I was given actually provides a full list to all the battleship data. Let's see if I can show you on computer screen. When you go to the link below, you'll see the original site. What I did was I ran this through Google Google Translator, and actually filled in some of the information myself too to try to make it a little bit easier to read. So you can just, once you have this document downloaded, you can just press Control F and find the chip you want. I've put in some English translation names too for the chips that have different names in Japan versus America. Alright, so we're going to type in Vulcan, and as you can see here, Super Vulcan's chip number 220. And what contacts does it have? 2, 4, 5, and 10. Any of these chips will require 10 because 10 is the main contact point. So that basically means that everything except 2 and 4 and 5 need to be connected to 10. So that means there's going to be a whole bunch of these things that need to be masked off. So alright, let's go ahead and get started with that. Alright, now on to the actual chip manufacturing part. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and cut off some aluminum foil so we can bridge the gap between the first pin we need and the last pin we need. For our example, for Super Vulcan, we need to go from 2 to 10, which is from the first one, from the second one to the second to last one. So what you want to do is get some aluminum foil. It should be about as high as the bottom of the battle chip to the top of the little number box up there. And for the length, it should be about 4 battle chips long. I didn't actually measure that out with a ruler, so you can just use your battle chip as a ruler for this. So about 4 battle chips long, about from here to here high. And what we're going to do is just go ahead and fold it over into itself, like so. You want to make sure it's perfectly folded, or as much as possible. Alright. And then do that again. Oops. So you can see it's a little bit off on my side, on this side. We can easily fix that by just refolding this end. And then we're a lot closer. There we go. Slide it until you got it. Alright, now let's fold it over one more time from the center. Here we go. Start the fold. You should just be able to push in and pull through and get a pretty good fold. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just try to get as close as possible. Alright, and now for the last part, we're just going to fold it over itself, like this. Let's move the camera back a little bit so we can get more light in, like this. And then fold it over itself, like this. Alright. And now that we have this 4 thick, we're going to fold it over itself with this one more time. So this is the hardest fold. We're folding over itself like this way, so it's kind of like an L shape. If it's folding all the way, that's I guess that's okay. But you just want to have a crease in the center. It may help if you use a solid object like the back of a knife or something, and just be careful not to cut yourself. Alright, and that should be in a sort of L shape. Kind of. Still kind of like a V over here. You want it in an L shape. On both sides. This side is not L shaped yet, so just kind of curve that in. Alright, now you want to measure it on your battle chip. As you can see, it's a little bit long, but that's okay. So what you want to do is measure from the first pin we're starting with, which is number 2, to number 10. So, starting at about a little bit into the pin 2, because you don't want to go over. So starting from there to the last pin, we stop right here. See, we're not using that last pin, so just imagine we're stopping here. It's basically the number box. Just want to go ahead and cut off the extra aluminum foil. And when you cut it, you may have a little bit left over. Just pull that off too, because we can't have extras. Alright, now make sure you redo your L shape. I wish I had something more flat to use, but this will have to do. So turn it into an L shape. Smooth it out on one side, and make sure both sides have the L shape to them. Even if it's not a perfect L, that's actually a little bit better if it's off to the side a little bit. Sorry that it's not focusing. You just want to have it curved. Alright, so as you can see, that's pretty good. Having it like 40-60. And on this side, it's not a perfect 40-60. Alright, so now you want to have, now look at your piece right here, and we'll have the smaller side up. So you see how it's bent with one side bigger than the other on both. That's good. Let's move this in a little bit. So smaller side up, you put it on top of a little piece of plastic up here. Oops, it fell over. Alright. And now you should be able to lay it out so it's just about, so it's not touching any of the pins that we're not using. So remember, or sorry, that we're not starting with. So we're starting with having pins 1 and 11 empty, as I showed in my example. There are more pins that we're going to want empty later on, but we're just working with the starting point and the ending point. So you want to have your starting point and your ending point open, everything else filled in for now. Alright, so just leave that like that. Make sure that you're not touching any extra pins. See, 1 is not being touched. The last one looks like it almost is. So just to be safe, move this over a little bit. Now look, the first one's still fine. Last one, From my angle, it looks like it should be okay. Move it over a little bit just to be safe. There you go, last pin not being contacted, first pin not going in contact. Alright, so next part is we're going to need some tape. Use whatever kind of tape you want. The clearer, usually the better. Alright, once you have your clear tape, just put it over the actual metal. You want to have it hanging over a tiny bit so the aluminum can't come out, but you don't want it hanging over too much because then you won't get any contact with the pins. Alright, don't push it down yet, just lay it over there just so you can make sure for one last check. As you can see, it shifted when we put it in, so we gotta scoot it over a little bit with a flat piece of anything, because you can see it moved over now. It's touching the first pin, and we don't want that. There we go. And there's the last pin. The last pin's still good. First pin's still good. Alright, so now we're just going to push this down and push it in. Push towards the blue plastic. So just to give you a more visual example, this is what I'm doing. I'm pushing down towards the corner in here. Not using the sharp part of the knife, of course. Alright, and once that's pushed in, we're going to go ahead and give this a test run. We're going to see if the bridge is currently working. How will I know the bridge is working? Because it should register as a different chip right now. What chip should it register as? Well, if I look on my chart, if I have pins number 2 through 10 plugged in, according to my chart, it should be red sun. Alright, and here we go. Alright, it looks like the reason why this was not working was I looked up the code for recovery 10, and turns out recovery 10 is actually having this first pin active. So by having this first pin active, it's actually activating pins 1 through 10. So basically what we're going to have to do is test this bridge, is we're going to have to mask off pin number 1. That will tell us if our bridge is actually working, because basically inside this chip, there's something that connects pin 10 to pin 1. But that's just the problem. So always look up your battle chip before trying to mod it to see if there's any problems like this. So that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to mask off chip number 1. Okay, there we go. We have taped off pin number 1. It's covered in tape so it won't make contact. So now it should actually register as a red sun chip since we bridged all those other ones. Let's go ahead and try it out. Alright, now let's test out the should be red sun we have. Come on, push down on the contacts. If it doesn't work quite very well for you, or it doesn't work. There we go. And I missed everything. Alright, so now going back to Super Vulcan. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so what's next for Super Vulcan? We have all these bridged. We have 2 through 10, right? And we also have slot 1 empty, which is good. So now what we need to do is we need to cover up slot 3, and we need to cover up slots 6 through 9, so we can match what Super Vulcan has. So for the first thing we're going to do is cover up slot 3. Oh, look, I actually died. That's cool. In game. Alright, so slot number 3 is going to be a little bit hard. Covering up any single slot is kind of hard. So let's just start out with the easy one. 6 through 9. Alright, down here. Alright, get some tape. And you want to cover up the entire contact for 6 through 9. So start at 9. Alright. 9 is covered up with the tape. 9 is right here. That's where the tape starts. So 9, 8, 7, 6. So push the tape down on 6. 9, 8, 7, 6. If it helps, you can count backwards. Alright, make sure it's completely covered up, and then you use an X-Acto knife or a normal knife to cut right before what you don't want to have taped off, which is number 5 for us. So be very careful. There we go, we got the tape. And there we go. We have numbers 6 through 9 covered up. Number 10 is still available. There's a tiny, tiny sliver of 9. That shouldn't be a problem. I doubt anything is going to actually read that. But other than that, we're good for this part. There's a little bit of tape hanging off. You can fold that under or cut it off. I'll probably cut it off. So next hard part is going to be taping off number 3. So what you need to do for this is, since we have tape here and here, we only want the tape getting pulled off. We're going to have to cut a very, very, very thin slice off of this. Enough to cover up one and only one pin. So it gets pulled off. Alright, and now we're covering up pin number 3 only. And there we go. Pin number 1's covered up, pin number 3's covered up, that bunch is covered up. Alright, since this is a small piece, we're going to fold it over a little bit at least. Let's just fold them all over. We can cut them off from the back later. Alright, so now it should be Super Vulcan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and find a random battle so we can test this out. Alright, the battle started, so here comes the last part. If you decided to follow my other video and print out your own custom, whatever these are called, custom stickers for your battleships or whatever, you can print these as sticker sheets, but I prefer covering them in tape so they last a little bit longer. They won't get rubbed off or anything that way. All you have to do is just actually cut out the actual label itself. Let's start the battle. Alright, so a knife will be a little bit easier because I don't have the scissors and I'm not going to try to tear it. You only want to cut out the label. You don't want to cut out the actual battleship itself. Feel free to cut out a little bit of extra of the blue around it, because as you can tell by this picture, there's a little bit of gap on the side of battleships that are not part of the actual label. So basically that would mean if you put the label on a little bit to the left, you could probably still see some of the original battleship label under it. And if there are two different colors, like I'm converting a standard ship to a mega ship, that would be a problem. If you decide to do the spine image, which I'm not doing, you just cut that out and then tape that on the very top. As you can see, I didn't really care to do it on any of mine because it still looks pretty awesome as it is. The spine's a little bit of extra work since it stretches. I don't know if I have the entire image even on the template. So you just put a third sticker on, or the third piece of paper on, and put even more tape on top. I'm not a fan of that idea. I don't really care. Nobody's going to be looking at the spine of the battleships anyway and be like, hey, wait a second. Alright, so once this comes out, just line it up as best you can. You'll have another chance to try once you put the actual tape on. So as you see, that's what it'll look like with the thing. There's a little piece of white there. Just try to get all the pieces of paper that may have come off when you're cutting off beforehand, because once you put the tape on, it's pretty much permanent. Alright, that's better. Alright, just line up as best you can. Remember, you will have another chance to adjust it once you put the tape on. You can pull it back up. Alright, I just want to get some packing tape big enough to cover that entire section of the battleship. Put it over the battleship. And just lay it down. See how you like it. Looks pretty good. If you wanted to, you can peel it back up, and you can see the label comes back up, and then you could try again. But I think it came out pretty good. A little bit too far down. So what we're going to do is be careful not to pull up any of the extra tape from before. Just line up as best you can. Okay, that's probably as best as I'm going to get it, but as from far away or from just like looking at it like this, it looks pretty good. That's why it's probably best to scale the battleships up a little bit, but that's a pure scan. So, alright, the template worked pretty well. If you put the spine on there, you probably could fill in a little bit more. And I think the problem is it came in at a little angle, as you can see. You can still see a little bit of the white label underneath, but I'm not too worried. There's a lot you can do to fix that on your own. Alright, so what we're going to do next is just fold it over the top a little bit. And then we're going to cut off the extra tape. Use an X-Acto knife or a pocket knife or whatever. And then just for the top, you can just cut wherever. Cut after the battleship if you want. Then you should, if the cut's deep enough, you should just be able to punch it out. And there you go, there's the front of the battleship. Doesn't look too bad. Again, could be a little bit better. You can feel free to mess with my template a little bit, change the colors or whatever. This is with the contrast and brightness increased. 44 minus brightness, 4 plus contrast. Compared to original chip, it's darker, but whatever. Alright, so this is this battleship. You can do more with the tape if you want, try to trim it again. So I'm just going to do the back. This video is already way longer than it needs to be. Right, and as you see, we missed a little bit up there. That's a problem. So definitely using scissors would be a way better option. Yeah, like look at that. Don't try using a knife for this unless you're using an X-Acto knife, and even still, you have to be very careful. Alright, here's the back of our battleship. Let's show that it's a mega ship. We're going to put the blue backing on it. And we're going to do the same type of deal. Line it up as best we can. Oops. Once it gets the actual thing itself, that's not coming off. Alright, yeah, that looks better. I think it's still off by a tiny bit, but not too bad. Let's just cut this. And here's our finished product. Again, it's not as stealthy as my other chip. There's a little bit more aluminum foil up here, but you can experiment with some, try to make it a little bit thinner, like fold it one more time before you start putting it like this. Do some other stuff too. But yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Looks like an actual battleship. Like if you just look at it from the distance. Get some focus going. Cool. Alright, blue and Super Vulcan. That's what I'm talking about. Alright, so it worked perfectly. Alright, thanks for the help, people on Reddit, and thanks for watching the video, guys. I like to see what battleships you guys made, so post in comments what battleship you think is going to be your first one you make. I'll see all you guys later. Looks like there's some more tape that needs to be cut off, but other than that, looks pretty good. See you guys later. Bye.